Hey, what's up? And welcome back to another episode here on the Path to Freedom podcast. Today, my guest is Evan Miller, and Evan is the founder and CEO of Game Day Men's Health, a fascinating new franchise concept that's coming onto the scene and that I have the opportunity to work with. And I'm really intrigued by this concept. Game Day Men's Health is all about helping men live their life as fully optimized as possible. They're specializing in testosterone replacement therapy, as well as a number of other services, with the TRT, or the testosterone replacement therapy, being kind of their core service offering, though. The other services they offer are erectile dysfunction treatment, a variety of vitamin infusions and vitamin supplementation services. Again, all focused on helping men, really thrive and take a more proactive approach to taking care of themselves, which, I think is a big part of why this is such an interesting concept, and the timing of them, coming onto the scene and starting to franchise this business. I think more and more men out there are really looking for ways that they can proactively take better care of themselves and put themselves in a position to, perform at as high of a level as possible in all aspects of their lives. Game Day's based out of California. They've got 4 corporate-owned locations that they have opened and been operating prior to franchising the business, and now they're offering franchises nationwide. So really enjoyed talking to Evan, learning a little bit more about, how they do what they do, how they're differentiated in the industry compared to, other providers of these types of services. And, Evan explains there are some key differentiators that really set Game Day apart from, some of the other companies out there that are also doing TRT replacement and similar services for their customers. So really cool episode, really cool concept. Without further ado, let's drop in with Evan Miller. So Evan, I've been really looking forward to having you on the show, man. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, man. I'm super pumped to be here. And yeah, I mean, this is really exciting. We look forward to this all week.
Yeah, man. Likewise. So tell the folks listening, what is Game Day Men's Health? What do you guys do?
For sure. Yeah. So, I mean, real simply put, we're the man cave for men's health. And here's how it works for us as guys, right? Going to the doctor is the last thing we want to do.
It sucks.
It sucks. We'll avoid it at all costs, right?
Yeah.
Maybe if the arm's falling off, or, we're really sick, we might, go get a prescription. But we want to remove all the pain points for men to come, to the doctor at Game Day. What we really focus on, though, is testosterone replacement. I mean, that's the cornerstone feature of what we do at Game Day. We can get into all the details of the process and all that, but that's really what we're about, is making testosterone replacement the cornerstone feature for men's health, and then helping guys feel the best they can. And it works.
Yeah. I know numerous people that are on testosterone or doing testosterone replacement. A couple of them are, in their late 40s, early 50s, but a few of them are even, younger than that, probably like early 40s. And the feedback that I hear across the board is it's an absolute game changer. They, feel 10 years younger, more energy, easier to get into the gym or do whatever type of training that they're trying to do, easier to lose weight or keep weight off. Like, cognitively, they feel sharper, like just across the board, tons of benefits. So and like you and I were chatting offline, this is, to me, I think, really good timing. So to back up a little bit, you guys just started franchising this business last year.
Right.
So I think the timing's really interesting. I think there are so many, people, but in particularly guys out there that are just, they're looking for ways that they can more proactively take care of themselves and put themselves in a position to operate at a higher level. And this is, I think probably could be a cornerstone of, a guy's routine to, function at a high level.
Yeah. I mean, you're hitting it on the head, man. I mean, look, as guys, it's just a matter of time, right? That old saying that Father Time, you never loses, undefeated.
Yeah.
At some point in your life as a dude, you're gonna wake up and you're gonna go, man, I just don't feel like the way I should.
Yeah.
And look, I know I should, I'm eating well. I'm doing all the things that I know I should probably be doing. Sleep is important. And there's everyone's aware of that. Everyone's aware of the importance of exercise. Like as more guys get older and older, we're much more health conscious than previous generations. Yet, there comes a time, maybe it's when you're 30, 35, 40, maybe 50, where you're like, I don't feel like myself. I got to do something here. And for those of us who are kind of brave enough to like raise our hand and say, hey, like something's not right, if you go to your doctor, more or less, what he or she is going to tell you is go, all right, you got low energy, you're not sleeping well, your libido's bad, your concentration's poor, you're depressed. That's obvious. Let's try this antidepressant or this anti-anxiety. Come back in 2 or 3 months and let's see how you feel. And so that's kind of like the current paradigm, right?
Yeah.
For when we do, which is rare, go to the doctor. Let's start you on some pill. When oftentimes, man, it's just as simple as let's just do a quick blood draw. Let's get your testosterone levels back and let's start there. So that's what we
Yeah.
do at Game Day. We do a 3-step process. We have a lab in every single Game Day office. We offer a free testosterone test for any guy anywhere. You can come in, walk into a Game Day office, and know his testosterone levels in 15 minutes. It's a real game changer, right? Where you don't have to go to LabCorp, Quest, and wait around for results. Guys, like we hate giving blood. Number one, we
Yeah.
hate getting injections. So you got to remove all the pain points for guys to want to come to a medical facility, and that's what we've kind of tried to do at Game Day, and we've done it really well. You got to be fast and efficient, and having the lab in there to get that point of care testing is really key. So we can
Yeah.
know, walk in the door, are you low? 15 minutes later, you're sitting in front of a clinician, licensed clinician, to potentially starting testosterone replacement all within like an hour.
Yeah, it's very turnkey, which to your point is super important, right? Because the fewer steps involved, the more likely someone is gonna be to actually follow through. And then yeah, having that actual lab in the location. Like I shared with you, we were talking a week or two ago. I started doing peptide therapies back around the beginning of the year, and it's been great for me. I would recommend people to look into it, but the place I'm doing it with, they're a brick and mortar, actually a franchise as well, but they didn't have a location where I live, right? So I was able to reach out to one of the founders and say, hey, I want to look into this. So we did it kind of remote, right? So I had to go to LabCorp, and I'm pretty sure their model is that anyways. They might be able to do the blood work in the actual location, I'm not sure, but anyways, for me, had to go to LabCorp. It took me 3 weeks to get there once they
Exactly. Yeah.
like sent the
Yeah,
request
you're
for the
over it,
labs or
right? You're
whatever.
like,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, so finally I did it, but it was one of these things. I was like, man, there's just never a good time, right, to be like, all right, I'm gonna go wait in a
Yep.
lobby of some clinical uncomfortable type place, and then have someone draw my blood. So anyways, finally did it. I'm glad I did, but to your point, removing those pain points as much as possible is key. um how did you get into this? What's your background? Like, recently started franchising the business, but you've got numerous locations, that you've opened and have been operating for some time. So kind of walk us through a little bit of like, when did you start the business? Where is it today? But I'd also love to hear a little bit of that backstory and like, how did you get into this in the first place?
Yeah, no, for sure. So my background's actually in clinical psychology. I'm a trained
Ah,
psychologist,
okay.
PhD in clinical psych. In grad school, I fell in love with the clinical side of, helping people feel better, specifically men. I was like, wow, this is just a passion of mine, just when you kind of work with a guy who's in a bad spot and you see kind of the lights come back on in his eyes. I'm like, that there's nothing cooler than
Yeah.
that. So right after grad school, I had an opportunity to work in an addiction treatment setting and really cut my teeth kind of in the addiction treatment
Mhm.
world, and was a clinician. And then I had an opportunity to run a big kind of rehab program right on the beach. What you'd see on those celebrity rehab shows. It was very similar model, whereas this
Yeah.
mansion on the beach and the private chefs and all that. But we did really good work. We were really helping a lot of guys recover from drugs and alcohol. It was only a men's program.
Okay.
But then I got involved in the business side of it, right? And this was, back in 2013-ish. Obamacare had just kicked in. And so everybody for the first time had access to drug and alcohol treatment benefits. So we were treating just thousands and thousands of people. I was working for a big corporation. At the time, a coworker of mine was like, hey, we should open our own kind of place, maybe like a small detox center. We're helping people, get off drugs and alcohol. And I said, sounds great, man. We got no business plan. We got no money, but like, sure,
Right.
let's do it. We just cold called. We cold called on just like a bunch of properties because we were trying to figure out where we wanted to put it. And one guy who picked up the call was like, well, I'm also an investor. Maybe we can talk. Anyway, he became one of our partners.
Very
He
cool.
invested, we started just a small 6-bed detox center in Orange County. And so that's when I really had my first kind of startup environment in healthcare. And I love startups. I'm just gritty like that. I love the grind. I love just the kind of early days of like
The chaos.
Oh, I love it. Built for it.
Yeah.
We scaled fast, 6 beds up to 200 beds within a few years.
Wow.
So it was a great experience. That industry, addiction treatment, it's 24/7. People aren't getting sober at between 9 and 5. It's all hours. You
Yeah.
have staff working round the clock.
Yeah.
So it was a lot. At the time, I had met my soon-to-be wife, and I thought maybe it's a good time to maybe cash out, do something different. So I sold part of my interest back to a partner. We moved to Hawaii and got married and had our first son. And I was just kind of thinking in Hawaii, walking on the North Shore, like, what do I want to do next? And I'm one of those guys, I don't know if you are, Wes, where like, if I have too much like free time, it's just not good for me. Like I like to be busy and I like to do things. I might get a little depressed if it's, I just love to have something I'm working on.
It keeps me out of trouble. The busier I am, the less time there is to get into any sort of trouble.
Totally. Right. Yeah. So I'm sitting, we're in paradise and I'm trying to like think, man, what do I want to do next? And it just came back to like helping men. I was looking at all these different models of kind of reverse engineering it, right? When you're an entrepreneur, you go, what's the best exit for me? Or how can this business do the best? And you're looking at the end result instead of like, hey, like what do I really love doing? And so I had spoken to a few mentors and they, across the board, they all said, dude, start here, like start at your heart. That's where it's at. And for me, it just came back to helping men. And I thought, well, there's nothing out there. I didn't want to, kind of focus narrow on addiction treatment again. I wanted to cast a wide umbrella. And at that time I was 30, 35 or 36, got my blood work done just like you did. Boom. My total T was like 200, right? Which it shouldn't have. Most guys in that range, that was low. It was very low.
So what is the like, I'm sure it varies by the individual and the age, but what are some general parameters? Like where should your T levels be optimally? What's kind of the cutoff to say, all right, you have low T and should probably look into TRT?
Yeah. So the Endocrine Society, Urology Society, they kind of look at that sub 300 level. If you talk to other kind of medical professionals, they'd say, hey, anything under sub 300 total testosterone is certainly something to be looked at. There's also kind of, folks dudes who walk around, they're symptomatic, having all the symptoms, and they might even be above 3, maybe even close to 4. So, clinicians as a whole, I think in this space, they're treating not only the lab result, but hopefully the whole person as well, and looking at the whole picture. But as a general rule, yeah, if your levels are low, like right around 300s or below, certainly.
And then where do you want to get it up to?
Kind of depends, right? So, we always at Game Day, we really pride ourselves on doing treatment the right way. All of our medical offices are supervised by doctors, nurse practitioners, PAs, fully licensed lab. So that's a really important point. We're not having guys come in the door and super dosing them, and if they want to be bodybuilders, it's just, that's not our model. Sorry, we're here for the average guy who just wants to feel better. So for most guys, kind of getting it to maybe total T 800-ish, maybe even pushing closer to 1,000. It's a general guide, I'd say. I think a lot of the clinicians that work at Game Days, that's kind of what they're shooting for. They also want to manage any potential risks, which they all do on the front end, making sure that everyone's properly screened and has the right labs to start treatment.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit more about your process for, the screening, the consultation, the recommendations, all of that, because I think that's definitely a big differentiator between, like, I see ads all the time for like these online companies where you
Yeah.
do a virtual
Yeah.
consultation with a doctor and they, put
Yep.
something in the mail to you. So,
Yep.
but want to kind of get back to the story. So what time frame is this that you're, really thinking about what you want to do next? You want to keep helping men, but you're trying to lock in on like the best way to do that. What kind of time frame are we talking
Yeah,
about
it was
here?
2016, 2017.
Okay.
That was the time frame. Landed on let's do. I'm a sports guy. A lot of guys, right? I'm sure you are as well. It's just
Yeah.
playing sports, watching. If there's a ball involved, I'm going to watch it or play it. Like that's
Yeah.
just. So I thought, what if there was a way to do? And this was my psych background. I'm like, what if you do kind of group therapy in a sports man cave setting? And I went, no, market's not ready for that. Guys aren't going to show up yet for. I need group therapy.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll call it
Probably.
mindset
Probably
training,
not.
like Navy SEAL type thing. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's what
Mastermind.
yeah, mastermind. Yeah, you call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
Didn't think they'd walk through the door. TRT, testosterone replacement, just kept popping up in the research, and I thought there's something to this. So I said, let's do TRT in a man cave setting, and let's make sure we are quick and we are fast and we are efficient. Because I'm like you, man. Like most guys, you think I gotta go to the doctor. That means the rest of my day shot. Like it's over,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I gotta go to the doctor that day. That was that. So I thought if we can do stuff really quick, that'd be a differentiator. Opened up our first office in Carlsbad, California in 2018. And I remember day one, I told my wife, I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally screwed this up. I'm like, I had all this time to think of an idea. And I came up with something where guys have to come give blood, get their blood drawn, and get an injection. I'm like, the two things that we hate, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't have been more wrong. Like I couldn't have been more wrong. We had and that just speaks to the power of testosterone replacement, right? Guys, we're
Yeah.
big when it comes to the doctors and things, but it's so powerful and it's such a simple, straightforward treatment for many guys to just kind of get the light switch back on in their eyes and feel better. So, I mean, we had line out the door. It was like day one, the phone would not stop ringing. So I thought, whoa, okay, we're onto something here. Open another office in Temecula, California, which is kind of inland, a little bit wine country area.
Yeah.
Orange County, San Diego. We just kind of expanded from there over the course of a few years. And then sometime during COVID, I'm like, I really want to grow this model. I want to open it up to other entrepreneurs, other potential franchise owners, because it's highly scalable. It's simple to operate, easy to train, easy to open. We're not going after big, 5,000, 10,000 square foot medical facilities. We can do a game day in less than 2,000 square feet. Doesn't need a bunch of TI. So it was kind of a no-brainer. Got the franchise model buttoned up and then got registered in California and off we went.
Yeah. I love that. So how many locations did you have open, before officially franchising the business?
We had 4 corporate offices open.
Okay.
4 corporate offices.
Yeah.
And we were totally content to keep, rolling profits into another corporate office and kind of just expand throughout Southern California. Yeah, but I just kind of looked around. Number one, I was like, I really want to exponentially grow the model because I'd had feedback from guys from all over Southern California, and we have a lot of military population in San Diego, and they were being deployed all over the place. And they're like, there's nothing in Raleigh, there's nothing in Charlotte. I got to move to Boise now. Like, dude, you should put a game day there. Like, okay, there's something to this.
Well, so if you're really passionate about helping men like this, you can help exponentially more men, franchising it and helping other people open up game days throughout the country. So to me, I can see why it was a no-brainer. And we'll talk a little bit more about the business model itself, but there's a lot to like about the business model, like especially when you're comparing it to a lot of the other franchises in, what I would consider kind of this health and wellness category. Because you don't need a ton of square footage, because there's not a ton of, specialized or expensive equipment. And, you referred to the TI, the tenant improvements. There's just not a whole lot that needs to be done from a build out standpoint, for what you guys need. So a lot to like from that aspect of it. And I mean, I think the timing's really good on this because, 2016, I'm sure, there was plenty out there about TRT, but it seems to me, I'm 36, right? So like 6 years ago, I wasn't really thinking about this or, had any sort of a need for it. But over the last 6 years, I've had 3 kids and life's gotten very crazy and hectic. And I also haven't gotten any younger. So it's like, this is stuff that's very much on my radar now. And like with more responsibility comes more need to like be able to handle your shit and operate at a high level. But it seems like there's been a lot more like information and research done on TRT. And it just seems like it's maybe more part of the mainstream narrative than it was, 5, 6, 7 years ago. So just from a timing perspective, I think the timing is really interesting.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Tons and tons of positive research around TRT. Big studies are, currently being conducted still. A really interesting one recently. So actually looking at, guys who are on testosterone replacement and then a subgroup that are not and that have low testosterone, they followed them for quite some time. And they realize people who have just low testosterone, so the normal course of aging, higher all-cause mortality in men, meaning like, everything a guy could potentially die from is accelerated if you're walking around with low testosterone. So
Wow.
at some point it becomes like, this is really important for me, to live a long, healthy life. It's not about just being optimized. It's about, hey, I want to have a long life. I want to be able to play with my kids and not be just feeling broken and tired and dad needs to take a nap. Like, no, none of that. That doesn't have to be like that. And so it's
Yeah, no
awesome.
doubt.
Much
No
more
doubt.
awareness.
What are some of the potential reasons that someone should not get on TRT? Because we can kind of tie this into like
Yeah,
what y'all's process is at the
for sure.
individual level, right? Because like you said, you're not just, you know, pumping TRT into every single person that walks through the door. It's not the same amount or the same recommendation for everyone. But like, for someone sitting out there listening and maybe they're a little bit nervous because they've heard some potential, negative side effects of testosterone replacement. Like what are some of the reasons someone may not want to get on testosterone?
So the big one right out the gate is if you're still trying to have children in family planning
Mm,
mode, it's probably something that you might want to consider after that period. As a
okay.
general, testosterone replacement could potentially lower a man's sperm count. That's one of the side effects. So for guys who are still, trying to have a family, certainly, we always tell the guys, look, knock out the babies, come back and see us, off we go. Because you want to make sure, you're not impacting fertility in any way. So that's the big one right out the gate. And number two, and we do this at every single consultation for any kind of new patient who shows up at any game day office throughout the country, is we test a man's PSA level. And so our clinicians are adept at interpreting PSA lab results. PSA is your prostate, their prostate
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
Most guys don't have prostate exams or even where they need to get the PSA level looked at until they're much older, sometimes even closer to 50, some guys have never had it, right? So
I
as
think
part
I've
of your,
always heard like 45 is kind of when you want
yeah,
to start, but
yeah,
I
when
would
you should,
imagine,
but how
yeah,
many guys do, right?
right. Yeah.
So part of every consultation is not only are clinicians looking at the guy's total testosterone result in that little small blood sample they run, but they're also testing his PSA, making sure that prostate is healthy. So you want to have a prostate level under normally a 4.0 is what the research shows. And for guys who have elevated prostate levels, we refer them out to a specialist, to a urologist. And it's a really powerful screening tool. We've been fortunate to have a lot of guys who would have never otherwise gone to see their doctor come to see us and potentially try to start on TRT and the elevated prostate levels. And they found out, hey, I was was early sign of prostate cancer. Thank you so much for
Wow.
that. Just
Yeah.
because they came to a game day office. So
That's
certainly if the
incredible.
guy's prostate levels too high, TRT is not an option for him either. And then the other biggie, and I think all the medical professionals at game day offices always talk about is your red blood cell count, which is basically when you start testosterone replacement, your red blood cell count can often increase. That's when you notice extra benefits, extra energy, everything kind of improves. If your red blood cell count becomes too high, then it kind of becomes too thick, right? And think of like water going through a pipe. You want it to flow freely. You don't want to have too thick blood. So that's another indicator of what we would look at on the front end. And all the game day clinicians are trained hormone specialists to know exactly how to interpret these results and make sure that anyone who starts TRT is well qualified.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. Is there, if someone gets on TRT, should they essentially plan on staying on it indefinitely? Like, are there potential negative side effects for starting it, maybe doing it for a few years and then stopping? Other than I'm sure you don't maintain the same energy levels and the benefits that you were getting from it, but outside of that, are there any potential negative side effects?
No, that's it. I mean, you hit it. So once you stop taking that testosterone, your body's smart and your body goes, okay, I guess I need to try to restart my natural production. It takes some time, right, for that to happen. So your levels will probably just go back down to where you started before you were on it. Most guys, though, it's good lifestyle, right? It's like I take a multivitamin in the morning. For me, I have really bad allergies. I take Claritin every morning, and then once a week I do a testosterone injection. It's just kind of part of my life.
Yeah.
These guys.
Yeah. Interesting. I think those are, I would imagine, some maybe common misconceptions out there. I know things that I've heard, people say in regards to, reasons not to do it. But so walk us through a little bit more. So guy signs up, it's what, a free consultation. They come in, they have the blood work done, they sit down with a clinician, and the clinician's looking at the blood work, right, which is the actual testosterone levels, the PSA levels, any of the other hormone stuff. And based on that, they're going to pretty quickly be able to say, yeah, we think you would benefit from testosterone, or no, we don't. Assuming the recommendation is you would benefit, how are they kind of tailoring the recommendation to the individual? And what are the talk to me too about the different ways in which someone can actually take the testosterone, because I think there's a few different options for that, right?
Yep, you got it. Yeah. So again, treating men, remove the pain points. We do a 3-step process. Easy, 1, 2, 3. So we like steps.
3 steps are great.
3 steps are great.
Yeah.
Easy to remember, hard to forget. Step 1 is your labs. And so that's why every game day has a lab in the office. We test quite a few things in office at that initial consultation. Gives the clinician, which is step 2, your evaluation with a licensed clinician, a ton of data in terms of, is this person potentially a good candidate for TRT? Meanwhile, you've already completed your intake. While you've sat down in the lobby, we stock the lobby with like bubbly, soda waters and fruit snacks. Guys love fruit snacks. We've tested all different snacks. The fruit snacks
I eat my kids all the time. I'm with you on that.
Fruit snacks in the house, they're gone. You're watching ESPN, hanging out, and waiting for your labs to be processed. That takes 15 minutes. Then you're called back. That clinician, that's step 2. He or she's reviewing your labs. So it's the total T, PSA, the red blood cell count. Those are the things we do in office. The balance of your sample will be sent to an outside lab just for comprehensive testing, but the point of care is all done in office.
Okay.
And then step 3 is potentially starting treatment, right? We're ruling out anything that potentially could get in the way, the clinicians are, of starting treatment. And that's all within a 45-minute span. So we're able to have, a lot of data to inform, is this guy ready for TRT? The balance of the sample comes back to us the next day, right in the patient portal. So we have even more data to make sure that he's the strongest candidate for TRT possible. So all that's done within an hour. And think about what normally happens, right? You said you get to LabCorp, boom, you waited 3 weeks. I'm sure you probably had to call and say, hey, when are my results in? Or when do I get to see the doctor next? And then you have that appointment.
It was a hassle for sure.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this podcast, then there's a good chance that you're looking to create more freedom in your own life. There's also a good chance that you realize that owning your own business can be a great way to take more control of your livelihood and create more of that freedom that we're all looking for. Also, if you've been listening to the show for a while, you realize that I specialize in franchise ownership. In addition to owning franchise businesses myself, I have a franchise consulting firm, Path to Freedom, where I help people navigate what is typically an overwhelming process of understanding franchising, identifying specific franchise companies that could be a fit, and then conducting the due diligence in a thorough and efficient manner with those franchise brands. My whole purpose here is to leverage my experience working for franchisors, owning franchises myself, and how we've been able to use that to create more freedom in our lives and help you determine if that could be a path that makes sense for you as well. So if any of this sounds interesting, if you've considered business ownership in the past, whether you've explored franchising specifically or not, I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to learn more about you and what it is that you're working towards in your life and determine if I may be in a position to help. A great starting point is the link below in the show notes, which will take you to a short form to fill out, and you'll receive a free copy of an ebook that I've put together, The 7 Steps to Freedom Through Franchise Ownership. That'll also get us connected, and I'd love to set up an introductory call where I can explain a little bit more about the process that I use to help people determine if franchise ownership could be a great way to start charting their own path to freedom. So click the link below in the show notes, receive the ebook, and let's get connected. I'd love to hear from you. So then, all right, so let's say the recommendation is, hey, you would benefit from TRT. Here's the specific, like, I guess, regimen that we're recommending for you. What happens then? What are the different options that a guy would have? Because like you said it, a lot of guys are probably not going to want to inject themselves. I started doing it with these peptides, and like I do them nightly, and it's just part of my nightly routine now. It's like, I don't even have to think about it, but it was kind of weird at first. Like, it doesn't hurt, but it's just kind of a weird thing to be doing. I always felt weird, like having the needles, like someone's going to think I'm a junkie or something, like got needles in my bag. But other than that, I mean, it wasn't that bad, but I could definitely see some guys, maybe that being a roadblock for them.
Yeah. So yeah, two separate forms of testosterone at game day that game day offers. One is the injections, and then the second option are the pellets. So pellets actually are implanted just under the skin, and they dissolve over time. So those work well for guys who travel a lot, don't want to carry medical supplies with them.
Yeah.
Just or will never inject themselves.
Yeah.
Your point though, we offer 2 kind of programs for guys who choose to use injections. Number one, they can come into the office, any game day office, and the medical assistants there will administer your shots for you. No problem. Pop in, pop out, within 5 minutes, over, done.
And is that weekly usually?
Usually weekly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, self-injection is another option. Most guys prefer that, where we just have it drop shipped from one of our partner pharmacies to your door. And like, you probably like after that first injection, you're like, wait a second, that wasn't really bad. Like, okay.
Not bad at all. Super easy. My wife likes to do it sometimes because I think she just the act of stabbing me, she
Takes
gets
out the rage on you.
She volunteers pretty often for that. So we have fun with it. The pellet is interesting though. So I assume that gets implanted in the location, right? In game day. They put it under the skin.
Yeah, that's a procedure done in office. Yeah, it's super fast. It's just under, a little local numbing. So there's no anesthesia involved.
Man, really interesting. I want to shift gears and talk a little bit more about this from like a prospective franchisee's eyes, right? So couple of questions I imagine a lot of people would have when it comes to this is, number one, like, what type of franchise owners are you looking for? Do they need to have like a medical background? What's really the primary role and function of the franchise owner? Are they in the location day in, day out? Any sort of licensing or anything that the actual franchise owner needs to have?
Yeah. So no medical degree required. That's the biggie. And that's why we've been able to have such success, I think, fast with the franchises is finding, entrepreneurs and business folks who really understand, how to operate a business. So what we do at Game Day in the onboarding process for every franchisee is we actually source the MD. We help source a doctor for you. We'll put 2 or 3 candidates in front of you on a Zoom call just like this and say, hey, here's Dr. So-and-so. They're a potential candidate. Once you interview them, go to lunch, have coffee, see if it's a good fit. The demand from doctors for our model is something I was like not prepared for. I mean, we've
Yeah,
posted medical directors throughout the country. We have like 200 doctors just
I
waiting
believe it.
at these.
I
Uh,
believe it. And I want the folks listening to really pay attention to that, right? Because these types of business models, a lot of times, like when I talk to people about them, it's that piece that seems very intimidating to them, right? Oh, I've got to go out and like find a licensed physician, and they've got to, kind of sign on to provide the medical oversight. Like if I'm a doctor, I'm looking for these opportunities all over the place, right? This is just an additional income stream for them that doesn't take up huge amounts of their time. It's not like if they have their own practice or whatever else going on, they have to walk away from that to do this. Um, and just in my consulting work and like, people seeing the podcast and, seeing me out there online, I think in the last 6 months, I've had like 4 physicians reach out and say, hey, I'm not interested in like buying a franchise, but I know there's a lot of these kind of
yeah,
medical type franchises where they need a licensed physician. I just wanted to give you my contact info in case you ever have someone that, is looking for a physician.
yeah,
So I'm not surprised at all to hear that the demand is high. And I do really like the fact that you guys are, helping your franchisees identify the right type of candidates and just kind of helping to facilitate that process. Ultimately it's the franchisee's decision, right, of who they want to partner
yes.
with. So what does that do to the financial model? I mean, we don't have to get too specific with the numbers, but like if I buy a Game Day franchisee, anyone that's listened to me for more than 30 seconds knows I'm not smart enough to be a doctor. What am I giving up to, this physician to sign on? Am I giving equity? Am I giving them a salary, a percentage? Like, what does that typically look like?
Yeah, so we never really recommend equity for the doc, and normally they don't really want it. I mean, you hit it on the head. These are great, for lack of a better word, side hustle for
Yeah.
MDs where they continue to have their day job, whether they're an ER doc or whatever. The doctors are waking up to this model. They're going, wait a second, I can keep my active license in good standing, fulfill what the medical board of the state is asking me to do as a supervising physician, still have my day job, and it's like a win-win-win-win-win. And so their ears perk up all over the place around the country with a model like this. So you really don't need to give equity. What you're looking with the doc is just, a fee, a monthly stipend, anywhere from say a couple grand to $4 grand a month, to get into some detail.
That's just
It's
part of your overhead, part of your payroll
kind
at
of the
that point.
ballpark figure. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty much the national average. Certain markets, can be lower, others maybe a little higher, but very well understood. Massive kind of med spa models
Yeah.
work like this. So it's very
Yep.
common. It's
Yeah.
nothing that's new or emerging. It's here, and medical boards and every all legal, is fully aware of how compliance works with it.
And it's really similar, I think, with the clinicians and the nurses or anything, because that's another intimidating thing for a lot of people looking at these type. Well, how am I going to find the right type of employees with the right licensing or credentials? And from what I see, tell me if you see differently, especially after COVID, man. Like any nurse that's worked in a hospital setting, or even like a lot of your traditional doctor's offices, like this is a dream job for them. It's normal schedule. It's a much more comfortable environment. And I imagine you're able to pay just as well, if not better than like a hospital would, but it's much less stressful.
Yeah. No, you hit it on the head, man. I mean, what COVID did for a lot of healthcare professionals and for everyone in general, really, but especially healthcare, is it forced them to reevaluate. Like, is this do I really want to do what I've been doing, especially if it's in a hospital or an urgent care setting? Um, it's relentless and it's brutal, those hours, and your schedule is unpredictable, and maybe you're working overnights this weekend and then next weekend you're off, and it's just so hard on so many
Yep.
levels. Game day, we're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. They have an hour for lunch, no after hours, no weekends ever. So they get this great work-life balance. It's a lot of fun, right? The patients you're treating at game day are like motivated to change, not, in some other medical settings where these patients don't care to change. They don't care if they're sick.
Yeah.
So tons of bonuses. Real quick though, I want to hit on, just in terms of labor model, right? So you have your doctor is going to supervise either a PA or an NP, so a nurse practitioner
Okay.
or a physician assistant. I'm sure almost all your listeners, if they've ever been to a doctor, they probably have been treated by one of those folks at some point. They're
Yep.
awesome. They can do quite a few things an MD can do. They must report to the MD though. That's to be compliant. Then you're going to have one or two medical assistants. So right there, you're at doctor, clinician, one or two medical assistants, and then a receptionist. So you're only looking at like, 4 or 5 folks really involved in a clinic. And I think that's talk about like, fear for a potential franchisee. I'm not asking you to staff a hospital here. It's a small crew, real tight knit. And we as the franchisor, we're pros at helping you find the right fit. We have software that we use that actually can predict job performance up to 65%, whereas a resume is just 12%. So you can take a resume, look at it and go, okay, that's nice. But then we plug them right into a piece of software. Every candidate has to fill out questions. So we know exactly what your staff should look like. It's paint by numbers in terms of
Yeah.
hiring.
It's a great point. I'm familiar with the predictive index, and it's scary how spot on that thing
It
is.
is.
Like spot on, and it doesn't take long to do it. And I think that's another thing worth pointing out here too, right? Is like, everyone that's looking at getting into a business at some point, they're going to have concerns about the staffing piece of it, right? And what I tell people is, I don't care what business you're looking at, unless it's like, you as a solopreneur, like the hardest part of that business is going to be finding and keeping good people, right? It's any business,
Bingo.
but people's always the hardest part. With something like game day, not only do you not need a ton of people, you are dealing with probably more reliable types of employees, right? Someone that had the discipline, to go through all the schooling and do everything that was required of them to get the credentials that they have versus I own an insulation franchise, man. I've got guys up in attics in, 110-degree heat. I've got to be real careful because sometimes those guys may bounce to another company because they're going to get 50 cents more an hour. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
love those guys, have a ton of respect for them. They bust their ass, but it's a very different labor model than, with game day where you're getting, these qualified professional candidates for employees.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been really, really focused on the supporting franchises, especially in this regard with hiring, because it's really, once they get past that kind of mental hurdle, and it's really what it is. It's like, oh, a doctor, I'm a little intimidated by doctors, or I don't even know how to speak the language of these people. Well, it's business. At the end of the day, it's all business. And if you're a smart business person, motivated, have that, some hustle in you to get your office off the ground, um, follow our instruction, at the franchisor level, it'd be just fine. And to your point, yeah, I mean, our teams have been super strong. I mean, we had our Austin team came on site for their training, and we were just like blown away by the caliber of these folks that they're finding.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah. That's a really interesting aspect of this for me. Really interesting. So what's the owner's role, right? So they're not really in the location day in, day. I mean, I'm sure it's good for them to pop in occasionally, meet some customers, show face with the team, make sure that the culture is kind of what they want. But what are they doing other than that?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, right? Like, I think, we get a lot of owners, and it's awesome that they're like, I'm going to be on every phone call and I'm going to book every lead. It's like, dude, no, no, you're not,
Yeah.
first of all.
Maybe for like a week and then
You're going to realize,
go find other things.
Correct. Yeah. So we have, a lot of tech involved to help lead booking easy. We want the owners to just, especially the first 6 months, we call it like a race to a couple hundred guys. And that first 6 months is the real, kind of fun time where it's nice to have the owner in there shaking hands with guys, holding open houses. And, guys like to say, I know the owner of Game Day Charlotte. I know the owner of, it's a guy thing, I think. And
Yeah, for
so
sure.
have a little FaceTime, right? Have a little FaceTime, shake some hands. Certainly watching the KPIs, we have a great CRM, custom CRM we've built out for every franchise. So they
Awesome.
can
I
track
love that.
all the appointment booking, they can see exactly their Google reputation, look at their numbers, make sure they're hitting their marks. So KPIs are huge. Beyond that, good old fashioned just getting out in the community and, maybe making a relationship with the guy who owns the gym down the street. That stuff
Yeah.
works. It
Yeah.
sounds so simple and stupid. It works. You like put a banner up in the gym and guys are like, oh, there's a new place I can get my testosterone treatment. Okay.
Stuff gets overlooked so much because I'm sure you guys are running digital marketing and all the strategic targeted kind of outbound marketing. That's all great, but I would imagine one of the biggest ways that like a game day franchisee could improve their bottom line once they're kind of established is create more walk-in or referral business, right? Where you don't have that cost to acquire the customer. So you probably never stop, entirely running the paid marketing and advertising, but the more you're out there doing that kind of grassroots, old-fashioned networking and just, getting out in the community and I always call it kicking up dust, right? The more of that you're doing, the more less expensive or even free business you're going to get, which can have a massive impact on your bottom line over time.
For sure. I think our digitals is very strong, maybe so strong that sometimes owners are kind of like, oh, I can just kick back here. And
Right. Yeah, for
sure,
sure. I have
that's
no
all
doubt.
great. And the machine will continue to churn. And absolutely, we're driving leads all day. But to your point, nothing replaces just getting out in the community and
Yeah.
just creating a presence. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, if you own a Game Day Health, you need to get on TRT, go spend like 5 hours a day in the gym, get incredibly jacked, and just be a walking billboard for what TRT can do for you.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt, right? But it's not a requirement.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Definitely wouldn't hurt. So you hit on kind of the customer acquisition. Like, what are you guys seeing, like in your original Carlsbad location? Like, what are you guys seeing? One of the metrics you look at in these types of businesses, like, lifetime value of a customer. What are you guys seeing? Like are guys staying with it for years on
Yeah,
end?
staying with it for sure. So,
Yeah.
our programs are affordable. I don't know if we hit this yet, but it's all recurring revenue. All our memberships are
Yeah.
recurring. So similar to a gym, as a new owner, you can just having that comfort month over month that you're just going to kind of keep stacking memberships. It's awesome, right? You can manage expenses and know just, all right, here we go. Cash flow looks like this. So yeah, really just being clear about that. Number one, that it's an effective model for that regard. But yeah, the lifetime value is pretty massive because most guys are going to stay on TRT for quite some time. You're talking anywhere from $200 a month, right? Let's just say multiply that by a year, right there, you're 2,400. Most guys start with us, let's just say age 45. They probably have another good chunk of their life that they should probably be on TRT. So yeah, the value is massive. I mean, the math can really stack up fast. What we've noticed just in terms of like attrition, because that's always a question that comes up, is the first 90 days is a really crucial period. So that 90-day mark, if someone's not feeling certain benefits yet, guys are going to go, I'm just not feeling it, right? So we're really, really, coach franchises to stay on top of guys those first 90 days. Check-ins, just a quick text check-in, how you
Yeah.
feel,
What's
adjusting
a
your
what's a realistic timeline for someone to start feeling benefits from
yeah.
TRT? Again, I'm sure it's a little bit different with every individual, but is it a month? Is it a week? Is it the next day? Like what's realistic?
Usually, I mean, as a general kind of norm, within the first month, they'll start to notice some of the improvements. Most medical professionals at game day, they're not going to start someone on a big dose of testosterone. You want to kind of build up, right? Or
Yeah.
else you can manage side effects. So that first month is a very conservative, usually small dose, just to see how your body reacts. But sleep is usually the big thing we hear by like week 2 or 3 guys. Whoa, I'm sleeping like a baby. I don't know what's going on, but I haven't slept this great in a really long time. And that's a
Interesting.
huge thing for us as guys, right? Like I struggle, we've all struggled with sleep. And
Yep.
when you start TRT, it's like, okay, sleep is much better now.
Just better quality sleep, or
Quality,
easier to go to sleep, or
easier to fall asleep
combination.
and stay asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
both. So that's
Interesting.
huge. And then energy levels pick up. Usually that second month is when you kind of have the libido kick and you go, wow, okay. There's also this kind of feeling of like, I just want to move around and lift some stuff or just get out and move. Because that's increase
I've heard guys say that, when they got on TRT and after they've been on for a while, it was just like their brain woke up and they were
yeah.
like, what have I been doing? Like, let's go build some shit. Like, let's go make something happen, So yeah, that's interesting. I mean, the benefits are almost, endless. It sounds like, if you're at the right point where taking it in the right amount, makes sense for you. If your levels are where they need to be. I mean, that's a question I would ask you then, right? Like, so you kind of ran us through, like, if you're 300 or under, generally speaking, you're probably low, and 800 to 1,000 is probably where you want to be. So, like, let's say I come in and my testosterone levels are at 600. I'm
Yeah.
done having kids, 3 and free. That's my motto these days. Done with kids. What would you guys likely recommend? And I know that's probably not all the information that you would look at,
Yeah. There's
obviously,
a
but
lot.
assuming everything else was in line, right? And I'm just like maybe a little bit low on my testosterone. Are you recommending like a small dose to bump it up a little bit, or wait and see? Or
For sure. Okay. So that's a case by case
I know,
evaluation
loaded question. I know.
by a licensed professional. So, right. So, disclaimer, I'm not a physician, right? I'm a PhD. So, all game day clinicians are licensed clinicians, PAs, NPs, or an MD. I think overall, if you were to kind of say, here's the mock patient that you just described, they're 600, they're going to want to see, number one, those labs, if they are substantiated. You can look at other variables within the labs to see maybe there might be something else going on, symptoms. Um, and then it's more of a game time decision, where is it substantiated or not? Does it feel like this person might benefit or not? Because that certainly would be outside of the endocrine guidelines in terms of the prescribing. um as a general rule, that 600 is probably kind of high, and I think if you were to poll the clinicians and at game day, they by and large they'd say he's probably not quite yet
Yeah.
ready. Again, we're not hyperdosing guys. We're doing things the right way, and I want to
Yeah,
make that.
which is great, which is the way it should be done, 100%, especially, for this thing to be sustainable long term. And good job, navigating a loaded question. But I was really just curious, like, is there any middle ground where you're either like too low and you need it, or you're not too low, so
No,
you're not
there's certainly a
eligible?
middle ground. Yeah, no, and I think any of the leading journals and like clinicians who are really on the forefront of TRT, they'd say like there's an art to it. If you just treat the labs, you're not doing the patient a full, you're not doing him service really. Because a lot of guys, you're not just your labs, right? You're going to have a ton of other symptoms. There might be some psychological things impacting it as well. So you got to really take a holistic view. So yeah, there is certainly an artwork to it, but at a certain extent, it becomes just too much, right? And if your
Yeah.
levels are optimized, then it might be something else going on. And in those cases, game days clinicians are really fast to refer to specialists. Like we have resources in the community. Maybe it is like this guy's got 800, 900 testosterone. He might be depressed, really depressed, and need psychological treatment. So we stay very focused on what we do well at game day. We don't try to be everything to everyone. That's why we'll never be a primary care and urgent care. It's just not going to happen.
I think that's smart.
Somewhere else for those types of issues.
Yep.
We stay in our lane, and we're happy to refer to specialists when those referrals need to be made.
Yeah, I think that's very smart. But, speaking of specializing, we're going to wrap this up soon, but we've talked about testosterone that's really y'all's core business at this point, really kind of, I guess you would say, your bread and butter. But you guys do have some other services that you offer. Quickly walk us through, what else a guy could look
Yeah.
at, if they came to game day.
Yeah, so erectile dysfunction, number two. That's our second biggest service for sure. A lot of guys who have lower testosterone levels are also going to struggle with ED.
Mm,
Certainly, a lot of guys with ED are going to have low testosterone. So there's a ton of crossover between the two. Um, that's a massively growing segment in our business. And I think, right now, let's say TRT is maybe 70%. I think next year it might be 60-40, with ED ground.
wow.
It's a huge market, and it's a crisis situation, right? If you think about it, like as soon as guys start having those problems, it's not like I'm losing my hair. It may be nice to get some more hair one day. No, it's like, oh, whoa, I need to do something now.
Yeah.
Like this,
What the hell? Yeah.
what's going on?
Don't even care what it costs. I would imagine, like, all
Yeah,
that's
it's
out
much
the window.
more correct. Yeah, because it impacts everything, right?
Yeah.
Not just all sorts of things going on there in terms of like how you feel about yourself, how's your relationship. It's a big deal. So
Yeah.
ED is becoming a big part of our treatments. Weight loss, huge. Weight loss is massive. Right now it's summertime, so everybody, I don't care who you are as a guy, you want to look good with your shirt off, whether it's at the beach, the lake, or whatever, wherever you're going. Doesn't matter your age either.
Yep.
So weight loss is big, and then we do a lot of vitamin therapies.
Mm.
B12 shots and those types of vitamin C shots and vitamin D shots. So those are kind of the core four. We certainly are adding in new services. Peptides is massive. We've primarily been based in California up until just the last year. And so California is very stringent on the peptide market.
I
However,
wouldn't have
state like
thought that. That's weird. That's weird
Florida,
to me.
state like you're in North Carolina, like
Yeah.
amazing states where we're just going to do really great with peptides because they're so powerful. I mean, I'm sure you notice the benefits are amazing, right?
Yeah. And there's so many. There's a peptide for everything, so
Yeah.
you can really, like, I was having some real bad stiffness in my knee where I'd had an ACL repaired back in college, and talked to the doctor, and they recommended a peptide that would help with joint soreness and joint stiffness. And it wasn't overnight, and it's not like necessarily a 100% cure, but massive difference in my knee and just the rest of my joints and stuff too. So you can get real specific with what might be going on, and what's the right peptide for that.
Yep, for sure. Sweet.
Good stuff, man. We covered a lot here. If you can't tell, I'm fascinated with this topic and what you guys are doing. So I'm really excited to have a brand like Game Day to work with, and recommend to candidates that I think it could be a fit for. So love what you guys are doing. Keep up the good work, and really appreciate you making time to drop in here on the Path to Freedom podcast. Evan Miller.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it so much.
Got
Thanks.
it.